Hello, ladies and gents. I am mic'd up today because I'm sitting outside and it's nice outside, which is why I'm out here. I'm feeling a bit rebellious, but I want to make sure that you can hear me because last time I was outside, my audio was horrid, and I have not learned my lesson about not doing vlogs when people are coming home from work, because right now a lot of cars are coming home from work. I wish I had an omnidirectional mic, and I realize that I don't because I want to clip it onto this side. And there's probably something really practical that I'm not thinking of in order to do that. But for right now, I'm going to actually move it up a little bit so it's closer to my mouth. So if there are any cars, you can still hear me. So I am feeling a bit, I don't wanna today. My prescription for tamoxifen was called into Wegmans, and I got the text saying that it was ready for pickup. And I have not picked it up. I have scheduled an appointment with the nurse practitioner for my oncologist to talk about tamoxifen in a bit more detail. I am going to take it. It's just that there are a couple of factual things I want to grasp my head around as to side effects. It's so loud, I'm sorry. I really shouldn't be vlogging outside. And I've heard very mixed things. Some people say they're on it for 5 or 10 years and say that everything is fine. Some people say they've had like every side effect there is. But I know that every person is different, so you can't necessarily go by that. So we'll see. My rebelliousness, part of that is somebody sent me, sorry if that hit the mic, hair chalk. So yeah, I decided to color my hair myself today, just into little streaks. If you could see that super close up, it's blue. So while I don't have control over certain things, I have control over making my hair blue. And I will wash it out before I go to bed because it's only 2 streaks and it will probably leave a big mess, but for right now it looks kind of fun. So yeah, that's all I have really personal that went on today. I do need to eat in a little bit, but I wanted to move it away from myself today and talk about what I'm looking at right now on my laptop. I came across a WebMD article about a slideshow of celebrities that have breast cancer. And some I knew about and some I didn't realize what their stories were. So that's what I'm going to focus on today with you. And hopefully with me looking down, you'll be able to hear me well from my non-omnidirectional microphone. What I will say about that, it seems like when I make comments about things like I get packages, which is not necessarily good, but nice. You know, when I mentioned about my hair color, then, you know, I said I've always wanted blue hair, and then I get a package in the mail and someone sends blue hair chalk. And it's just fun to play and have control over what you have control over. And for right now, I just want to forget that I have breast cancer, or had. I don't even know what my title is anymore with this whole thing. So share with you about, these are female celebrities. I will take a look at male ones too, because I'm curious, because it's not like breast cancer just happens in women. So I will share with you. And again, this is coming from this WebMD article. So if anything is non-factual and I get flagged for something, I'm just, you know, going off by what they say. So the first person that pops up is Shannon Dougherty, who was on Beverly Hills 90210. She has stage 4 breast cancer, which I did not realize. She was first diagnosed back in 2015, so that was 6 years ago. She had surgery, radiation, and chemo. She was in remission, and she kept things pretty private. And what I like about her little quote here is she was on a talk show, and she said there's definitely days that she says, why me? And then she says, well, why not me? Who else? Who else besides me deserves this? None of us do, which is very accurate. Wanda Sykes, who's a comedian, I'm pretty sure I knew about her having breast cancer. In 2011, she had elective surgery to make her breasts smaller, and then samples of her breast tissue revealed that she had DCIS, ductal carcinoma in situ, which in situ means it's inside of her mammary, or not mammary glands, inside her milk ducts. So it didn't spread beyond the milk ducts. Mine, again, is invasive ductal carcinoma, which means invasive means it broke out of the milk ducts and, went rogue, and that's what created my 2.9 centimeter tumor. And then she opted to remove both of her breasts because there was a family history. Cheryl Crowe, I think she's been pretty open about her choices. She had dense breast tissue, which a lot of women hear that when they get their mammograms done. They get letters, including me, in the mail that say that a mammogram is not always the best way to detect something because you have dense breast tissue, so it's hard to read through. So you could choose to have an ultrasound, or like I did, have a baseline MRI. My baseline turned out to be what led to these being gone. But she had a mammogram in 2006, and the radiologist suggested she come back in 6 months. Usually you go back after a year. Sometimes it's more than that now. They did a biopsy, and it also showed DCIS, ductal carcinoma in situ. She had a lumpectomy, and then, meaning that only part of the breast cancer, only part of the cancer's, only part of her breast was removed to get rid of the cancerous tissue, and then she went through radiation for 7 weeks. Christina Applegate, I forgot that she had it, and I didn't realize that she had a double mastectomy too. I think of her as back in the day when she was on, am I flaking on that show, Married with Children, and I mean now she's been in some, she's really matured, I guess, as an actress and not being stereotyped because of the role that she played in. Wow, I'm really brain farting today. In Married with Children. Her mother had breast cancer. She had her yearly mammograms and then had a follow-up MRI, just like me. And she had it, the MRI showed that she had breast cancer in her left breast. So they did a lumpectomy and radiation. She tested positive for, it says the gene that causes breast cancer. There's like 8, so I don't know how long ago this was. So she chose to have a double mastectomy instead. Robin Roberts, I think that's pretty, actually it was a while ago. I thought it was more recent. She's been, I feel like her cancer came back. Anyway, she's the co-anchor of Good Morning America. She felt a lump in her breast during an exam that she did herself back in 2007. She went for an ultrasound and a biopsy. She had triple negative cancer, which is when they don't know what's fueling or what's feeding the cancer cells. It happens more in African Americans and Hispanics. I was not aware of that. She had a lumpectomy, chemo, and radiation, and she speaks out publicly about that. But it's interesting because I feel like I remember her, maybe it was 2007, but I thought it was something more recently with her about, I remember her not having hair, and I don't remember it being all that far back. I'm just gonna look real quick here. I feel like this, I could like delve into, you delve into the interweb and then like, Lord knows where you'll end up. Oh, okay. So when she did have her breast cancer in 2007, and she had chemo, she did surgery, chemo, and then 6 weeks of radiation, and she went to work only a couple weeks after the operation. So maybe that's what I'm remembering, because she went back with her hair, obviously either super short or gone. But it says here also that she has a rare bone marrow disorder, I can't try to pronounce that. Myelodiplastic syndrome, a rare blood disorder affecting the bone marrow and sometimes referred to as pre-leukemia. Very interesting. Yeah, she's had quite the journey. Okay, you rewind. It's so much more common than like what you even think about. Melissa Etheridge, I think, has also been very open about her cancer journey. She found a large lump in her breast when she was 43. Cancer ran deeply in her family. Her mother, her father, her aunt, and her grandmother. And then her tumor turned out to be stage 3 breast cancer. Later, the doctors downgraded it to stage 2, so it had not spread far from the breast. It doesn't really go into what her treatment was. Julianna Rancic. I didn't know that. She's co-anchor for E! News. She was 36. That's so young. She was preparing to start. Oh, I remember this because she had a reality show with her husband. She was starting her third round of IVF treatments, in vitro fertilization, in 2011, and a mammogram showed an early stage breast tumor. She had a lumpectomy. It failed to get rid of the cancer. She opted for a double mastectomy because she was worried that radiation or chemo might make it harder for her to get pregnant. So interesting. I remember watching that show and her having it. Oh gosh. All right, now I just got goosebumps. I mean to cut that short, but I remember when she had the reality show with her husband, Bill. What was he from? The Apprentice, I think. Could be wrong. They talked about their journey of having a hard time getting pregnant. Olivia Newton-John, one of my most favorite people. I love her voice. I either didn't remember or didn't know. Back in '92, she was diagnosed. Shows you how far I'm off the market with this, because it says that she's one of the best known advocates for breast cancer awareness in the world. I didn't even realize. I guess I still view her as like Kira from Xanadu, and that's all I see. In 2017, which is 4 years ago, she told the public the cancer had moved to her lower back. Wow. But it wasn't until the following year that she also acknowledged an earlier bout with cancer. In 2013, in her shoulder. That's crazy. And now she says she's doing great. So nuts. I'm not going to read all of these. I'm just fast forwarding. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, famous actress who was in Seinfeld. She had a biopsy. Biopsy showed she had breast cancer. She received rounds of chemo while her show was on break. While she was on Seinfeld? It just says her show. Crazy. A year later, tests showed her cancer was gone. I should hook up with her and combine forces, since she's got far bigger reach than I do. So if you're watching, Julia, let's, pound our forces together. She used her experience and fame to push for universal health care and to help women afford breast reconstruction. Yeah. Universal health care, man. I was ranting about that yesterday. I should write to her fan club and be like, listen, what can I do with my with my small fan base? Kathy Bates, I didn't realize that either. She's a badass, Kathy Bates. Her mother had breast cancer. She expected to get it too. Her first cancer was found in her ovaries. And then in 2012, she got the breast cancer diagnosis. She had a double mastectomy. She also had a complication called lymphedema, which causes painful fluid buildup under the skin. She wears compression sleeve to manage swelling. What's interesting, as I'm looking at my feet right now, I put these smiley face socks on that I got from a friend of mine to make me cheerier, even though I wasn't feeling cheery. And I went walking today. I went walking in a different area than I usually do. My son had driven around, and while he was at an appointment, I just walked around there. But anyway, I walked a half a mile, which was really good for me. Distance-wise, I think that's the longest that I've walked. I stopped in between but total it was a half mile, which was nice. But then when I got home and I took my socks off, I had smiley face imprints in my feet, which are now gone. But the lymphedema, that swelling, you know, you really got to be careful with that. I still, I haven't worn my compression socks in a while, but yeah, I am still very aware of my feet, because there's not, there's times where I can't slip my shoes on, and I tend to wear the same shoes because my feet are still swelling a little bit, but not lymphedema like she had. Kylie Minogue, I didn't know that. Her doctor, well, she says that her doctor missed her breast cancer in 2005. She went back for a second opinion several weeks later and did a lumpectomy to remove a small tumor, followed by chemo. She now tells women to trust their instincts, which should always do. Yeah, like even when they tell me that my kidney stone and me getting COVID and having all the reactions and stuff are not linked, I don't think that's true. I really don't. Cynthia Nixon from Sex and the City. And apparently she ran for mayor of New York. Didn't know that. She had breast cancer twice. She started mammograms at 35, which was 15 years sooner than is generally advised for women without special risks. That's something interesting I can bring up to you of one of my fun fact stories. Her doctor ordered a biopsy that caught her cancer 5 years later. The tumor was small. The doctor was suspicious because it hadn't turned up in previous screenings. It's the age thing I'll bring up, because I remember back when it was about a year after I stopped nursing my son, so I was about 35, and I remember having shooting pain in my breast, and I went to my gynecologist. She had told me to go in to get a mammogram, and 3 times they turned me away at the hospital. They turned me away and said, "You can't have a mammogram done because you're not old enough yet." And I'm like, I didn't know you had to be a certain age to get breast cancer. And I mean, fast forward, at the time it turned out fine. That's not what it was. And I later learned that, like, typically breast cancer doesn't hurt. If you have pain in your breast, it's probably not breast cancer. I've ironically had pain at the base of my left breast for years, and that could partly be because probably mostly is because I'm a side sleeper, or was a side sleeper, and I sleep on my left side. So if I'm constantly like compressing it, and wearing underwires and stuff doesn't help either, that is very much a reason why I could have had those pains. But they turned me away 3 times. And I remember I was teaching at the time. I was on a leave of absence for work, obviously because of me having a baby. And when I came back, one of my good friends, normally has like long blonde hair. I came back and we had like a in-service day where like all the teachers and staff whatever meet in the auditorium, and you know, hear a spiel from the principal, and they talk about whatever topic it is. And I saw my friend, and she had like a pixie cut. Not even like a pixie cut. Her hair was like super, super short. And I made a comment to her about like how cute her hair looked. And she said to me, and granted, we're in a room of like, I taught middle school, but we were in a 7 through 12 building, like middle school, high school combined in one room. I mean, in one auditorium for that meeting. But she said to me, "Yeah, chemo will do that to you." And I thought she was being like weirdly inappropriately funny. I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. And I brought it up later to some other people, and I said, "Yeah, she said this to me." And they're like, "Yeah, you didn't know she had breast cancer." I'm like, wait, what? And she was about my age, definitely not 40. Like they said, you can get a mammogram unless you're 40. And I went up to her and I'm like, what the hell, you know? And she's doing well. Her hair grew back, still long, blonde, beautiful. As far as I know, she's doing well. I should really reach out to her, actually, now that I'm thinking of it, and have my computer in front of me, because I guess that's a good thing that Facebook's for, to connect people. But I remember she was young, and I went back to my gynecologist and told them they refused to have me do the mammogram. And they said, you know, when you go this time, put me on the phone so that way I could, this is back when cell phones were like this thick. And they said, you know, put me on the phone, and my doctor will talk to them. So they did that, and then they did the mammogram, whatever, and everything was fine. But the point was, like, when I went there, and they kind of were like, that the doctor was on the phone in order for me to have the actual mammogram done. And I said, you know what? I'm like, I actually know a friend of a friend had breast cancer when she was in her 20s. So I'm like, you don't have to be over 40 to have breast cancer. And when I thought of my friend that I worked with that had it, I'm like, my good friend is like, I don't think she was 35. And I'm like, her hair is just growing back from having chemo. So don't tell me that I can't have, if my doctor's ordering it, obviously there's a concern. So just, I don't know. There's so many things wrong with our healthcare system. I'm going to contact Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Rita Wilson, wife of Tom Hanks, also an actress and singer. In 2015, she had invasive lobular carcinoma. That's the type of cancer that starts in the cells that line the breast lobules where milk is made after childbirth. That's what they found on my left side. It wasn't invasive. Or was it actually? God, I'm having such brain farts today. When I went to the oncologist, she told me that I had it, that they found precancerous stuff in my lobular, whatever, on my left side, which increases your risk of the cancer going to my left side pretty significantly, for me at least. I don't recall if it was invasive. I feel like it was. I don't know. Whatever. They're gone now. Doesn't matter. So she had surgery to remove and reconstruct both breasts. Wilson was initially found to have lobular carcinoma in situ. Oh, that's probably what it is for me, I guess, which is not a cancer, but which does raise your risk for invasive breast cancer. So in situ, again, means it's inside the milk ducts, or inside the lobule at the end of the milk duct, but it hasn't spread out of there to be considered cancerous. Some of these people, I'm not sure who they are. There's so many. Suzanne Summers. If you're my age, you know who Suzanne Summers is. She was on Three's Company. She had workout videos and things. She had surgery and radiation back in 2001. Instead of chemo, she opted to take a drug made from mistletoe extract. Interesting. Not approved by the FDA. In Europe, mistletoe extract is widely prescribed as a complementary therapy for cancer. She went on to embrace a controversial nutritional approach to treat cancer and now says if she could do it over, she would skip radiation too. That's very interesting. Mistletoe extract. Huh. Who knew? I'm not going to go. There's so many. Oh, okay. I'm not great at tennis. But with my right arm, like, if I can't even write with my right arm, it makes me so angry to think that, like, what will I or won't I be able to do down the road to play tennis? Tennis for me is a way of, like, letting out my aggravation. I'm not great at it, but it's such a great way to, like, smash balls when you're frustrated. I bring that up because Martina Navratrilova is the next person, and I didn't realize she had breast cancer. Wow, okay, so tennis great. Navratrilova urges women not to put off regular mammograms like she used to. She was diagnosed with DCIS, ductal carcinoma in situ, in 2010. It was 5 years after her last mammogram. Despite her shock, she moved with her typical aggressiveness and had a lumpectomy 3 weeks later. And less than 2 weeks after that, she competed in a 25-mile cycling portion of a triathlon in Hawaii. She had a lumpectomy. What I'd love to know from those of you that are watching, I just have this, like, it could be an irrational fear that I won't be able to kayak or play tennis again. Period. The kayaking thing is important to me because I used to have a large fear of water. Being on a kayak, you can't really have a large fear of water. And the tennis thing, like when I was in high school, I really sucked at most sports. And I used to play just like against the wall, like at the brick wall of the high school. I had one friend who would play with me, who I'm still friends with now. It's funny, whenever I get stressed, I feel such tightness, not in my chest, but literally in my breasts. And I've been overdoing kind of a bit today, so I need to tone it down and finish up with this list. But I packed in, well, I mean, you saw in some earlier vlogs, I packed in tennis as much as I could before my surgery. I anticipated it only affecting my breasts. I did not anticipate it I did not anticipate it, oh my lord, affecting my arm mobility. I didn't get the whole lymph node thing, other than like, yes, they checked those to see if your cancer spread. I didn't get the numbness and soreness and limited range of motion that you have in your right arm. Granted, it's much better than it was. I did wall crawls, and even looking here, I'm able to go to about, maybe here. I can go there and then it hurts. And it's a very weird, distinct kind of hurt. It's not even like a pulling. I can't even describe what it is. It's almost like you're having like when your foot cramps or your leg cramps or something. It's like that. But if you stop doing it, it'll go away. But you'll still, like the uncomfortable, the wincing will go away. But the uncomfortableness could last for 2 or 3 hours just after doing what I just did. But what I would be curious about from those of you that are watching, because I could Google it, but being on the computer is hard for me right now. Like I'm literally taking my left hand and just like scrolling, which I can do with my left hand, but to type is hard. Yeah, if there's other tennis greats that went through mastectomies on their dominant hand, or dominant side, I should say. I would be curious to know that and ask you guys to look it up, and gals, and let me know and comment or whatever. It would make me feel better. That's my ask of today. Because granted, it's like September now, but last year I couldn't play tennis. Well, I was actually at tennis doing a ball machine clinic when I started having shooting pains a few hours before my kidney stone ER visit. All of a sudden I just like stopped playing because I was having like really bad pains, and like I don't know what's going on, and fast forward a couple of hours I was passing a kidney stone. So I feel like tennis has been taken away from me every year for years because of something, and part of it out of my control, like COVID or whatever. Okay, next, Gloria Steinem. Okay, super powerhouse woman. She was 52 when she was diagnosed. She had to battle her own surgeon to get the lumpectomy that her radiologist recommended. The surgeon favored a more aggressive option of removing the entire breast, as was common during the 80s. Steinem ultimately flew to Boston. Oh, there you go. For the surgery, she wanted to return to New York for her radiation treatments. You know, I am from New York, and I'm all like pro New York, but I have to say there's a lot of things about Boston that I like more than I like about New York. Healthcare being one of them. I know there's great hospitals in New York, but like Boston is like the mecca of places to be for that. Jacqueline Smith, also one of my idols, Charlie's Angel. She was too busy and felt too healthy to worry when her doctor wanted to take a biopsy of her left breast tissue. The news that it was cancerous left Smith so shocked that she barely heard the doctor reassure her that the tumor was small and caught early. Today, she regularly advises women in similar situations to have a family member or friend with them to help sort out the medical information. Very true. Because when you go in for those appointments, you don't always hear half of what they're saying. They'll say something, and all of a sudden you're like, boop, you're just checked out. If you can't have someone there, again, audio recording is awesome. I've used those voice memos a ton. Sometimes you keep them, sometimes you're not, but at least they're there. And so many doctors are used to that at this point that I've only come across one person that has said that she wasn't comfortable with me videotaping her. Let's see. Let me fast forward. Not that these people aren't important. It's just that unfortunately there's a lot of people. Carly Simon. Mrs. Chill. Singer-songwriter Carly Simon. She had successful surgery to remove stage 1 tumor in 1997. The doctor left it up to her whether to have chemo. She did, just to be safe. And she later acknowledged that she was in a deep depression around the same time. There's so many reasons to be in a deep depression with all of this stuff going on. Since then, she's written a New York Times best-selling memoir and stays busy writing and making music with her children. Well, that's something I can read. I like reading memoirs and autobiographies. Interesting. Didn't know that. Okay. Another badass. Maggie Smith. Harry Potter. Maggie Smith. She was 73 and received chemo for her breast surgery when she began filming Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. She found a lump she wrongly thought was benign. I don't know how she would know if it's benign. After 2 years of treatment, doctors deemed her cancer-free. Well, that makes me feel good. She's a badass. And it says there were 27, but that's... Wait. Oh, that's lung cancer. It brought me to Yul Brynner. I'm like, Yul Brynner had breast cancer? Attractive man. He had lung cancer. And I don't want to be remiss, although I do want to finish up soon because it's getting dark out, as you can see. I'm going to look up. Hopefully there's results for this. Wow, that's so interesting. You look up famous women who have had breast cancer and it gives you this whole long list. And then you look for men who've had breast cancer and it's much smaller. Hugh Jackman's on here. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm trying to find a reputable source here. None of these websites look reputable, so I don't want to say anything that's not necessarily true. But I see Hugh Jackman there. He's had cancer. A lot of these people are who I just read, but I wanted to focus on the breast cancer thing. A lot of these are the same people. Sharon Osbourne had colorectal cancer. Oof. Rod Stewart had thyroid cancer. It's so crazy. I mean, it truly is. Even Sofia Vergara, she's absolutely gorgeous. She had thyroid cancer back in 2000. Like, who would have known? All right, let me go to... There's just so many. Okay, I'm going to be quick. This is not a super reputable, but I can't imagine this is actually false. View gallery. All right, here we go. So October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Well, how appropriate is that since we're almost at October here? About 1% of breast cancer diagnoses are men. Again, I'm not... Oh, this is from Men's Health. So, okay, that's more reputable than what I would have thought. Wow, 1%. Okay. Shaft. Did not know that. Well, they said that it's more prominent in African Americans. Yeah, 1971 Shaft. Wow, he was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1993. That's crazy. That's so long ago, too. Rod Roddy from The Price is Right. Come on down. Yeah, he had both colon cancer and male breast cancer 17 years ago. Wow. After mastectomy in 2002, he lost his battle the following year. That's crazy. It's so dark. Sorry. Rod Roddy from The Price is Right. Come on down. That's, wow. I had no idea. Wow, that's crazy. Peter Criss said you don't need boobs to get breast cancer. The Kiss drummer told Fox News in 2014. Inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2014, he felt a lump in his left breast after a workout in 2007. He had successful surgery. He has been an outspoken advocate for male breast cancer awareness. Who knew? Wow. Who knew? Ernie Greene was a fullback for the Cleveland Browns. Discovered a lump in his chest in 2005. He was told not to worry about it by a doctor due to the rarity of male breast cancer. He got a second opinion, and a mammogram and biopsy revealed that it was indeed cancer. He received a mastectomy as well as 8 sessions of chemo and has been cancer-free since 2006. Montella Williams, talk show host and television personality. He was on Dr. Oz to talk about emotional eating. While serving as a U.S. Marine, he was diagnosed with breast cancer and received a double mastectomy. Wow. Only later was it discovered that he simply had a what? He simply had a torn pectoral muscle, and the entire surgery was completely unnecessary. Wow. That's crazy. Okay. Wow. Fast forward. That's nuts. And then it brings me to 7 old guys who can kick your ass. that's what's on there. But there's only 7. I mean 7 or however many that I read. 1% of men. Wow, that's crazy. It's getting dark. Okay. Yeah, interesting stuff to share with you today. I don't know, something to think about, talk about. Doesn't always happen only in women. All right, that's what I have for you today. Let's see what tomorrow brings. Good night, everyone.